the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has accused Dangote Petroleum Refinery of seeking to restrict competition and expose the country's fuel market to monopoly control by challenging import licenses issued to rival marketers. NNPC said granting Dangote's request to void or restrict import permits would expose Africa's largest oil producer to supply disruptions, price instability, and risks to national energy security. This comes as state-owned refineries remain idle and have yet to produce refined fuel output in years. Joining us on the show to discuss NNPCL's allegations of monopolistic practice by Dangote Refinery and the way forward is Dele, former president of the organized private sector. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program today.
Good morning.
Dele, thank you for joining us. Very quickly, there's something I don't understand here. The NNPCL is supposed to be a shareholder in Dangote Refinery. And then in a matter before the Federal High Court, Lagos Judicial Division, this week, you had NNPCL saying, Dangote Refinery is seeking for a monopoly and that its prices are always fluctuating and that, nobody should allow Dangote Refinery to have a monopoly. And they are supported by a group, I think it's Petroleum, right? Petroleum Retail Owners Association of Nigeria. So it's NNPCL that says it's now a going concern, investing in a business and also fighting that same business. Why are they not doing the same thing with Nigerian LNG, which is the only major company that sells gas? And they are also investing in Nigerian LNG. Is there something behind the story that we need to know?
Well, first of all, it's a huge embarrassment to all of us that Dangote has to go to court on such an issue. Looking at what Dangote represents for Nigeria, Africa, especially recently, during the war between Iran and the United States, Dangote Refinery was able to keep Nigeria flowing with oil and gas, and we did not have any shortage, even though prices fluctuated. But that is understandable. But for the NNPC I understand Dangote was frustrated, had to go to court. And in going to court, what is the news is NNPC's defense that is fighting monopoly. This is the same language that has been used by our several years of importation, which NNPC said was the monopoly for the PIA. NNPC was solely importing fuel, and he also had the 3 refineries, 445 capacity. NNPC did not claim that it was monopoly then. Dangote's emergence broke NNPC's monopoly. And for NNPC to now say they want to open the field for Dangote Refinery to compete with foreign petroleum other refineries, it is not the same easy playing field. If you look at the cost of doing business in Nigeria, Dangote had to build his own port, how to provide his own infrastructure, how to provide his own power, everything, even the roads within the refinery. Even the land where the refinery is based, he bought it. If you now compare this to the foreign refineries who operate on single-digit loans and has huge support from their various governments, the Exim Bank, everything, it is not the same. And I think we need to protect our industries. And Mr. President has already said this. This is the policy of this government, that local refinery is the way to go. So I would suggest that this case should be mandated by the Honorable Attorney General, and they should resolve the matter in-house. It is not a case that should go to court. It's very embarrassing for Nigeria. It's a huge blow to our industrial capacity because everybody's laughing at us. You see, when Dangote goes outside Nigeria, you see how many other states line up to meet him asking for investment. Now we have the investment in Nigeria. We are playing with it. It's a huge embarrassment, and I think the government should maybe stop it. The NNPC has a duty, both statutory and consistent with government policy, to allow Dangote to thrive. And their duty to import is only when it is not available. If you look at the combined effect of the Petroleum Industry Act, Section 317, 8 and 9, and if you now combine with the Nigeria Content Development Act of 2010, you will see that the NNPC has no discretion. It is the exclusivity is for Nigerian business first. It is when they cannot meet the space, then you fill in the gap. And that is not NNPC's defense in this case. They said they are trying to avoid monopoly. They are trying to not to affect supply chain disruption. Where is the evidence? So I would say we all need to work together to find a solution and resolve this. There is nothing like monopoly here. It is just a clear case of trying to sabotage a local business.
I mean, it certainly is a very strange case, especially as you hear all of the headlines of fuel queues all across Africa and how the rest of the continent is grappling with the current crisis. Yet fuel is flowing for us thanks to this refinery. But my question to you is, you quoted some of the legislation, especially the PIA and the Content Development Act. My question is, do you think we need to tinker with policy to further protect some of these very strategic industries? Because a lot of the debate seems to fall in between areas where there are gaps, where certain policy is not explicitly stated. Do you think the law is robust enough to protect such a strategic investment?
Well, while I appreciate that the matter is in court, I would not want to argue the case here. But just from a policy point and the impact this thing is having, because even while the case is pending, licenses are being issued. That is one of the reasons why I had to provide this. If you look at Section 3178 of the Petroleum Industry Act, it provides that the authority shall apply the backward integration policy in the downstream petroleum sector to encourage investment in local refining. This idea of competing with foreign refineries, is this in tandem with this law that controls the NNPC? If you now go further to Section 3179, it says license to import any product shortfall, it's only shortfall, shall be assigned only to companies with active local refining licenses or proven track records of international crude oil and petroleum products trading. So what it means is you have to consider people like Dangote first. Even if you must issue these licenses, why you not give it to Dangote? He has invested. The law says you should encourage him first. Then if you not link this law with the NOGICD Act.
No.
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe I should hold my fire. After the fire. Because what NNPCL is saying is different. NNPCL, in their pleadings before the court, is saying that if you look at Section 317, of that same, law that you are quoting, it says that the backward integration that you have talked about in Section 318 is discretionary, not mandatory. And that the Dangote Refinery, they are also arguing, has no data to support the claim that Dangote Refinery can supply 90% of domestic supply. All of those issues are in their prayers. And that therefore, they are not duty-bound to allow Dangote Refinery to be the only licensed company that is providing fuel supply. There is another side to the story. Just look at Section 317 and look at the prayers of NNPCL.
No, I read the section to you. This is written in very plain English. The priority is to do backward integration. And where you most import,
I just told you what NNPCL presented before the court. Address that. Don't tell me it's written in English.
Yes. Then if you now add that law to the Nigerian Oil and Gas Content Development Act, which is binding on NNPC of 2010. Section 1 says the act applies to all matters pertaining to Nigerian content in respect of all operations or transactions carried out in or connected with the Nigerian oil and gas industry, which means it's of general application to NNPC. If you don't look at the combined effect of Section 31, 32, and Section 10, they all said exclusivity is for Nigerians, Nigerian first. It is when it is not available, you can now consider the option of importation. So what I'm saying to all this is, the argument for, and if NNPC had gone to court and said, we verified there is no capacity to do this, that's a different thing. All their main argument is that they are against monopoly. And I've told you that the real monopoly was NNPC. Dangote is the one that broke the NNPC monopoly. So we should look at these things in a way, because in Nigeria today, we have to look at what is happening to in the local industries. There's no support. If you look at the best practices which in the world, there's nowhere in the world that countries don't support their local industries. I've taken the pains in my write-up to show that the US, you have the Jones Act of 1920, which requires all goods transported by water between US ports to be carried in US-built, US-owned and US-crewed vessels, which invariably means that all the operations is US-run. Okay. What is the equivalence in Nigeria? There's none. So if you don't go to Brazil, the same thing. You go to, what I'm trying to say in all this is, what Dangote is asking for is not different for what India has done, okay, what Saudi Arabia has done, and what Nigeria should consider and do for our local industry. I'm not only talking for Dangote. For all that that is coming up, if you've borrowed money to set up a refinery now, with this kind of crisis you're having, how will your bankers be looking at you today? We should be careful not to throw Nigeria back to dependence. Yeah. The last several years of importation only produced private jet and rollers for Nigeria. There was no industry. There was no employment. Okay. When you import, you are exporting, you are bringing jackpot into Nigeria. Our boys are living. Okay. You have a duty to encourage the local investors. Okay. And this is a world-acclaimed refinery, acknowledged by everyone, including the NNPC. What changed?
So let's just go through some numbers. What they keep complaining about, I'm sure the regulators have complained, is that the Dangote Refinery has not been able to effectively meet all of the quota of what we need on ground. And that's why those licenses are still being issued, so that the shortfalls are to be met by those other companies. That's number one. Are we saying that those companies now, if we are having a competitive market, that they have no rights to be able to bring petrol in and they all compete effectively, let the highest bidder take it? That's number one. Also, there's a case of the PIA that governs local refineries, primarily through, DSOs and upstream producers to allocate portion of their crude to domestic refiners. I want you to talk me through how that is going, because I know the Dangote Refinery has also complained that they have not met the set quotas to them, and it's gone through a lot of challenges as regards that. So the first question is, are you invariably saying that all those other local refineries that might have other inputs to be able to put into the market, they shouldn't bring it into the market, we shouldn't get licenses for them? What if in a case where Dangote Refinery is carrying out a TAM, for instance, a turnaround maintenance, do we have to pause? Do we have to wait? What happens and everything? Because the greater argument is that we don't want a clog in supply. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, Dangote is not carrying out TAM maintenance. If you look at previous report by NNPC,
where Dangote carries out TAM, maybe in the future,
that's a different
scenario. Yeah.
If we have such a situation, I'm not saying NNPC cannot issue these licenses. All I'm saying is the reason given now that is because they want to fight monopoly does not arise. Because when you talk about monopoly, it means you have the ability to control the price, regulate others from coming to the market. Dangote does not have power to stop BOA today from starting his own refinery. This is the power that the regulator has. This is a refinery that is exporting abroad, following up market indices. So where is the monopoly? It is, even its price is still being regulated by the same authority. So what I'm saying in a nutshell, there's nothing wrong in importing. But for you to import, the reason being given does not make sense. It does not add up. If Dangote say today they are not able to meet, or there are even evidence which NPC have provided before the public to say, we've gone to Dangote, we've verified, they only have capacity for this. This is the base on which we are doing it. They are not addressing us. There's no information out there. There's no way you can benchmark their claim that they are fighting monopoly. This is the language of people that have been importing fuels without any investment in Nigeria. So, and even if you have to import like that, you have to put some duty on it so that it would not destroy local refining capacity. Because I've already told you it's not a level playing field. The Nigerian entrepreneur buys his own investment, does his own infrastructure. How can you now compare with a refinery in Norway, whose government provides everything and borrows at single digit? This is the challenge. It is not a level playing field. NNPC duty should be to increase local refinery by providing support, helping them with finance, and breaking all these bottlenecks, not to compete with them. So if you are bringing new refinery products, then put a charge on it.
Okay.
So it's not in our interest, and this will destroy.
Mr. Dele, thank you so much. I mean, it certainly is a delicate balance between ensuring that our local industries are protected and also ensuring that energy security is prioritized, given, any act of God that may occur at any time. Well, thank you for that. The conversation will continue on other platforms.